So, quick trigger warning. Today we are talking about Domestic Violence Awareness Month. And so we're going to touch upon some signs and symptoms of domestic violence, some resources, just some campus awareness for what we can do to support our survivors and then help perpetrators get the help they need as well. My name is Sophia Brockman. I'm our Student Services Specialist with the Office of Care and Civility. And today I am joined by one of our Title IX professionals.
Hi, everyone. My name is Dr. Michaela Postel, and I am the Deputy Title IX Coordinator and Investigator.
October is Domestic Violence Awareness Month, and so we're just going to touch upon a couple of points about how Title IX can help you if you have a report or any concerns or questions, what to expect when you go through Title IX, and then just what are some of those warning signs of domestic violence and how can we help others and ourselves. Yeah, and so if any of you are ever curious, and I'll keep the links in the description as always, but Title IX does have our policies laid out very clearly for what intimate partner violence is, domestic violence, what is mandatory to report, because most of us, I would say 99% of us on this campus are mandatory reporters. And so if a student comes to us or a peer or faculty member, staff member, we are obligated to report to the proper services, which would be Title IX, campus police, or care team if you're unsure. And so I'm going to toss it over to Dr. Postel. We're going to talk about, can you quickly define what domestic violence is and what Awareness Month is for it?
Okay. So we have a policy on domestic violence, and I want to be clear to pull up the exact wording so we know. So let me get that for us. So while I'm pulling this up, I can talk a little bit about how we support survivors and respondents in the Title IX department. So here in the Office of Title IX, we serve as a neutral party. So we are not on survivors or respondents' side, but we provide resources for both. So when a survivor comes to us with an allegation of domestic violence, we typically take them through our complaint process. And the first thing that we do is we hear out their story. We want to have a good understanding of what exactly is happening and how can we support them better on campus. From there, we provide any resources, so counseling, health services. We can also connect them through different resources within the Fort Worth area, like such as Safe Haven and other domestic violence shelters around the DFW complex. Again, one of the important things that I really want to note here is that those resources are available for both, like I said, complainant and respondent. In respondent's case as well, if they are being accused of doing an allegation of domestic violence, they can come to us and we can provide them with support as far as attorney resources, mental health services, and just anything else that may support them during an investigative time or an allegation of domestic violence with the police or whoever, just to make sure that they have those resources that they need to advocate for themselves and get the help that they need if they are found responsible for doing those acts.
Yeah, and so for the person who makes the report or the complainant, they can request to be anonymous, correct? But you still have to give them your name.
Yes.
Or their name.
Yes. So they can request to be anonymous, but they still have to, provide their information. We will take that in consideration depending on the nature and the severity of the allegations. Most times we do respect the complainant's wishes. So if they do not wish to proceed with an investigation or they don't want us to put their name in it, like I said, 9 out of 10, we respect the complainant's wishes. But there's those rare cases where we also have to look at the campus community and the safety of the community where we might have to proceed in an investigation and really looking at those allegations without the complainant.
Yeah. I think about, how many people get a little worried or they think, oh, it's not dangerous enough or big enough or bold enough of an issue to bring forward to Title IX. And so for a lot of students, what would be your word of advice? What would be your encouragement for them?
My encouragement would be report to us. It doesn't matter how big or how small you feel like the incident is. Regardless, we can provide you with resources, number one. We are here to make sure that the campus community is safe and that everyone feels safe, including the complainant. So again, my encouragement to those who are victims or survivors of domestic violence and they want to come forward is to come forward. We are here to support. We are here to help. We are here to make sure that you feel safe. And we do not care how small, how big, anything, we are here.
Mm-hmm. And the incident doesn't even have to happen on campus.
No.
The only requirement is that it happens to somebody who is a part of the HSE community.
Absolutely. So as far as resources are concerned for complainants, it does not have to happen on campus. The incident can take place off campus, in another state, in another city, and we will still provide you with resources. When it comes to an investigation, as long as the respondent is affiliated with the University of North Texas system, so that can be Denton campus, Dallas campus, HSC's campus, and even our system enterprise, which is our online type of situation, we will look into those allegations. And then, like I said, they can even be a third-party contractor with us. So if respondent in any way, again, is affiliated with us, we will look into an investigative process. If the respondent is not unaffiliated with UNT, then we would just provide those resources and make the direct referrals to an area which they should go to.
Mm-hmm. And so I remember in undergrad, I was in college at the time that Title IX had a really big shift in terms of how we protect our survivors or our complainants. And so I think a really big question we get all the time is, if I were to, make a formal report, make a formal complaint, and it's against a classmate or a peer, what protective orders can I find that will be in place? Do I still have to attend classes with them, lectures, volunteer requirements, et cetera?
So, no, we can definitely put some supportive measures in place to make sure that you're not, having to be re-traumatized by seeing, the alleged perpetrator in class. So we can alter class schedules. We can provide a no contact order for you and the respondent. So there's not any direct or indirect contact that the respondent can have with the survivor. And we can also work with the university police as well to, do safety walks back into classes from your car. Really, the options are open. We can be as creative as necessary to ensure that the student or whoever in the situation, faculty or staff members, feel safe. So really, like I said, the sky is the limits as far as resources are concerned in providing that safety. But if it needs to be any alterations of class schedules or work accommodations, we can definitely work through that process and provide that.
Yeah, I love that because I think, when we think about Title IX, so often people, they're a little bit scared because, it goes back to that idea of what if it's not big enough? What if it's not, a good enough case? And a lot of times it doesn't, if you were made to feel uncomfortable, report it.
Absolutely.
Whether it's verbal, emotional, psychological, physical, report it because it's not necessarily, an automatic punitive system. You guys aren't set out to find a party to punish. You're trying to find that safe haven.
Right. So Title IX, like Sophie said, is not a punitive process. We do not discipline. That is through other avenues. Well, on campus, other departments handle the disciplinary actions. What our role is to investigate to determine if a policy violation has occurred. And the policy violation in this case would be domestic violence. So we are just here to say, hey, the action occurred. This is what happened. Here are our recommendations. And we transfer that out to the relevant departments for them to make the assessment on, what should happen moving forward. But yes.
Mm-hmm. Did you find the domestic violence policy?
No, I'm
Let me see if I can.
trying to pull it up. I can tell you the policy number, though. If you're looking for the Title IX policy, it is policy 1.107 or... Yes. Or our sexual misconduct policy here at HSE is 5.126, I believe.
Wow. Okay. So I found the online brochure. So how we at HSE define domestic violence it's a lengthy definition, which is... I will let you...
Okay, so in our policy, the Title IX policy describes domestic violence means a felony or misdemeanor crime of violence committed by a current or former spouse or intimate partner of the victim, by the person of whom the victim shares a child in common, by the person who is cohabitating or has cohabitated with the victim as a spouse or intimate partner, by a person similarly situated in a spouse of the victims under the domestic violence, family violence laws or jurisdictions in which the violence occurred, or by any person against an adult or youth victim who is protected from that person's acts under the domestic or family violence laws of jurisdictions in which the violence occurred. And then also included in that is our dating violence policy, which means committed by a person who is or has been in a social relationship or a romantic or intimate nature with the victim. The existence of such relationship shall be determined based on the consideration of the length of the relationship, the type of the relationship, and the frequency of the interaction between the persons involved in the relationship. And I know that's a lot. And here in the Title IX office, we can help you break that down to determine if what you're alleging fits into those categories. But I don't want that to be a hindrance from anyone reporting. When in doubt, just report it. We are here again to listen to your story and see what area, what categories in the Title IX policy that this could potentially fit in. So if you're not too sure if this could be dating violence, domestic violence, that's okay. Come to us. Let's have the conversation. Let's see how we can assist you.
Yeah, and it's a really robust definition, but it is that way for a reason. Domestic violence is such an umbrella over everything. We talked about domestic violence, and a lot of times people kind of focus on that intimate partner violence part of it. And I think we sometimes kind of get away from domestic violence just being really anybody who you're close with, anybody who has a connection with you. And so it could be a family member.
Yes.
Could be a friend. It could be an intimate partner. It could be a parent towards a child. And so when we talk about domestic violence, you don't have to fit in one bucket in order to, one, be a survivor of it and also to report it.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And for those who may have friends and families in those situations and you're observing domestic or dating violence taking place, please encourage them, to seek resources, seek their Title IX office here at HSC, or if they're at a different institution, seek their Title IX office at their institutions. So you be sure that they're getting the support that they need. Again, even if they're not going through a full investigative process and they want to see they don't want to see some type of punitive action take place, we still want to be sure that we are doing our due diligence to create that safe environment and just to make sure that they're okay, at the end of the day.
Yeah. And a lot of times, I shouldn't say a lot of times, but, there's a good amount where people don't want that punitive. They don't want a punishment. They just want to be kind of acknowledged. They want that compassion. They want to be told, like, you're right, like, this did happen. I'm very sorry it happened.
Absolutely.
Let's get you help. And so when we talk about, how do I support a friend? A friend came to me and I'm a little bit concerned about their relationship with so-and-so. Just listening, being an active listener, letting them kind of, if they need to cry, if they need to rant, if they're looking for advice, knowing what your resources are, knowing where you can guide them. And, hotline.org is a really great, well-rounded online resource that can help connect you to a million different, local jurisdictions and those shelters. It can help you just with like online chatting or calling. And even, if you Google simple Title IX HSC, it'll pull up this office and it'll pull up their resources. And so I think being able to, we don't always anticipate that we'll be, victims or survivors. And, so a lot of times we don't think to prepare ourselves.
Exactly.
And especially when, somebody comes to us and they're seeking guidance, they're seeking help and support. And it's very easy to just, help validate their feelings, help remind them that their feelings are normal and that this experience, they do have support, they do have resources.
Exactly, and they have nothing to be ashamed about for being a survivor. That's nothing that they should be embarrassed or, afraid to tell their story. So I hope that gives someone encouragement listening to this, that if you do find yourself in that situation, that there are people here at HSC who are here to support you, staff members, faculty members, the Title IX office, and we can get you those resources that you need.
Yeah, for sure. And I think, when we talk about abuse and what does it look like, it's very nuanced, unfortunately. It's complex. And, there's a difference between healthy relationships, toxic relationships, and then abusive when they take it a little bit too far.
Yes.
And the biggest indicator of abuse, there's kind of this pervasive but not totally accurate idea that abuse stems from anger, that it's, an anger management problem, and it's not. It's, this need to control the victim. It's this need to control outsiders. And so when you're looking for some signs of abusive behavior, whether that's in a friend, a family member, yourself included, you want to look at, maybe they're putting you down constantly. They're telling you that you never do anything right. They're showing extreme jealousy of your friends or time spent away from them. Maybe sometimes they're preventing or discouraging you from spending time with others. There's that idea of isolation and keeping you all to themselves. The biggest indicator is, are they insulting, demeaning, or shaming you? And especially if it's in front of other people. And then if they're preventing you from making your own decisions, including about working, attending school. And another one that we see quite frequently is controlling finances. Financial abuse is a huge one that often prevents survivors from leaving. And I often tell people, because I've worked, we've both worked in this sphere for quite a bit, or this world for quite a bit. And, it takes on average 7 times to leave your domestic, violent situation, whether that's with a partner or whoever. It takes a lot. It's a lot of courage.
It is.
And so I think, being able to kind of point out those signs and then going back to just having compassion for other people and being able to say, if you need a bed, if you need a couch, if you need somewhere to crash, my place is available, let me know.
Right.
If you need time apart, let me know. And so it always goes back to just kind of holding space for other people and being compassionate. And I think, another question we get is, what's the statute of limitations on abuse or situations?
So there's not a statute of limitations for reporting dating violence or domestic violence to our office. Really, if you want the resources, you can report anytime. If you're looking for some type of punitive action, an investigation to take place, the only thing that we ask again is that respondent be still affiliated with the institution. And even if they are not still affiliated in some cases, we still will look at it with the possibility that they might come back, to the institution. So again, there's no statutes of limitations. When you feel comfortable, when you are ready to report, we are here.
Mm-hmm. So and I think that's like the biggest thing is just kind of having that little bit of courage to kind of step out of it, because it is uncomfortable. And a lot of times, we look at when we're, survivors of domestic violence or domestic abuse, there is that shameful tag to it. It's, why did I let this happen? How could I have let this happen? And those aren't the right questions to be asking. It's, how do I get out?
Exactly.
How do I stop?
How do I remove myself from the situation, get into a more healthier situation? And that's no fault on the survivor. Just once you recognize that this is no longer a healthy situation or relationship to be in, it's about taking those active steps to remove yourself. And I do want to note, because it's something that we didn't go over, but if you are a survivor of dating violence or domestic violence and you are speaking with any faculty member, staff member on campus, they are considered mandatory reporters. So they are required to report to the Title IX office. However, in that moment, just as Sophie said, if you want to remain anonymous or confidential, please tell whoever you're telling that. They will tell you in some point of the conversation that they are a mandatory reporter and they're required to report to Title IX. And in that same breath, you should say, I want to rather my name not be mentioned, and they'll put that in the narrative to us so we can take that into consideration. So I don't want that to scare no one away, that faculty and staff members are considered mandatory reporters. That's just, again, another way for us to get you those resources.
Mm-hmm. And so what can a complainant and a respondent expect if they do file a report?
So the first thing that they can expect is a reach out from us. Typically, we reach out to the complainant first just to get a better understanding of the allegations and exactly what is going on. From there, it is completely up to the complainant, the survivor in this situation, to decide how they want to move forward. So that is their decision. They can decide to, no, Dr. Postel, I just want the resources. I just want the support. I don't want to do anything investigative. Or they can say, I want the support, and I think I want to move forward with an investigation as well. And if they decide to do that, that's when we, obviously loop in the respondent or the person that is being accused of this behavior. And we speak to them as well, get their side of the story. We speak to any witnesses, gather any relevant documentation that we need to come to an accurate decision on whether or not the allegation took place. And bringing us back is that, again, Title IX is a neutral party. So we are not on complainant or respondent side in this situation. We are just here to gather the facts to determine if the allegation occurred. So those resources that we provided to complainant, respondent will have access to those as well. Any supportive measures that either party needs in this situation, we provide those to them equally when we do our due diligence to make sure that both parties feel safe still while they're on our campus community. But again, they're getting those relevant resources that they need to move forward in the investigative process. After the investigation is completed, depending on the nature of the allegations, it may go to adjudicator who would then determine whether or not, like, what sanctions will be associated if there is a responsible finding or not. But we can walk through that process with complainants and respondents in a lot more detail once you come into our office and we have those conversations. There's a lot of different processes that takes place within an investigation. So that's just a snapshot quickly of what happens. But the takeaways that I would like to just note for our listeners is that when you come in, just know that you're going to be treated fairly. You're going to be treated with respect, regardless of where you stand on the allegation, and you're going to be provided with resources. So complainant or respondent, if you have an issue, if you have a concern, we are here to walk you through those steps and to make sure that you feel supported regardless. So, yes.
And one of the things I really appreciate about the Title IX office's webpage specifically is there is a link for both a Bill of Rights for the complainant, for the survivor, as well as for the respondent.
Absolutely.
And so there's a lot of transparency in what's happening in Title IX and what happens in that process. And I think a lot of times people, when it's kind of covered by that curtain, when there's a little bit of that gatekeeping of what it looks like, it's, you get really scared, especially if you are the respondent and you're like, why am I all of a sudden like, I'm going to be kicked out, I'm going to do this.
Yes, we're trying to break that stigma of, having a process that not a lot of people understand, We want our process to be transparent and, like I said, equitable. So we try our best to make sure that up front, complainant and respondent know their rights, their resources, and their options and how to move forward. We never want anyone to feel like they are being left in the dark or they don't, or they're not getting the resources that they need, or they just don't understand the investigative process, because if that happens, then we're not doing our jobs. So again, everything is on our website. If there's any questions or concerns, we are open. We are open book. We are here to help and assist. So I feel like I've been saying it's a lot throughout the podcast, but please reach out to us wherever you side on the allegations. Like I said, complainant or respondent. Our process is very transparent. We are very open. We are not here to keep you all in the dark or to pull the sheet over your head or to do anything nefarious in this situation. We are here, again, to determine whether or not a policy violation took place, look at the facts, and to provide support.
Yeah. And that's why I love, Domestic Violence Awareness Month and, any affinity around Title IX is a really great, time to kind of help advocate again for what Title IX does and what we can do for y'all. And so I think when we look into Domestic Violence Awareness Month specifically, a lot of times we focus on the survivor. How do we help them? What can we do? And in relation to after the fact, rather than how can I get out of this now? How can I put an end to it? And so I think one of the things we slightly touched about before we even started recording is this idea of rehabilitating our perpetrators. And how do we, because domestic violence, we can offer, as much support as we want. It doesn't end with a survivor. It ends with the perpetrator ending what they're doing and stopping it. And so when we look at rehabilitation, there's a lot of actually really great resources out there. And, most of them are going to be 26-week-long classes. One Safe Place is a really great rehabilitation program open to, men, women. It's voluntary. It's also court mandated. But they have some really great resources out there because, again, when we talk about abuse, we talk about domestic violence. It's not derived from an emotion.
Right.
It's not, oh, I'm angry, so I'm going to hit a wall next to your head. It's this need to feel control. It's this need for domination. And so when we look at, helping perpetrators, maybe you're concerned for a friend or you have a parent or even a peer if you feel comfortable enough. When we look at, how can we help them, just one, learn about what domestic violence is, be able to speak to those unhealthy and abusive behaviors, be able to, understand what resources are available for all parties involved. Because even, as an outsider, there's supportive resources for us. For friends and family members, who are victims, there's supportive resources for navigating that because that is a mental health toll. And so just knowing what your resources are and then doing only if you feel completely safe in doing so, please suggest that your friend or your, acquaintance consider seeking professional help in another way to support them in changing.
Absolutely.
And so maybe that's, on-campus counseling, counselor out in your city, or even an online chat or support group. There's so many great mental health resources out there that can be very specific or tailored to this one problem or this one behavior. And so I think just being able to really, navigate those situations, kind of identify them, and then feeling comfortable and safe enough, that's the biggest key.
Yes, absolutely. I think you made some great points. Like, definitely if you are someone who has a friend or a witness, a perpetrator committing these acts, if you feel safe, please, address the behavior. Let them know that's, not okay and direct them to some resources. Like Sophie said, there's tons of resources in the DFW area. There's tons of resources online. We're living in such a technology-savvy world where knowledge is accessible at your fingertips, and there's ways where you can get connected with counselors immediately within 30 minutes, to get on a session and talk to someone about these feelings, these actions that the perpetrator is doing and working through those. So, yes, if you're listening out there, there's, again, tons of resources. So
yeah. And if you're an HSC student specifically, Timely Care is your free resource.
Yes.
For everything. They have peer-to-peer support. They have 24/7 chat logs. They have, you can have 7 free counseling sessions
which
per
is
academic year.
Which is
amazing. And it helps to kind of bridge those gaps we see in seeking mental health support. And, another thing I want to mention is if you're in the health science world or if you're in the human service world, odds are you're also a mandatory reporter.
Yes.
And so, even our students, I'm sure many of you are, mandatory reporters for elder abuse, child abuse. I want to mention, of course, the policy changes from state to state, but a lot of times while you may not be able to, you can't often, if you see domestic violence between adult couples, unless it's physically violent or there's a threat of harm, you can't report, that's not a mandated report situation. However, and I want to emphasize this, the second a child comes into play, whether that child witnessed it or was also, victim in that situation, you can report it. You can report it to Title IX if you're an HSC affiliated person. You can report it to your local PD. You can report it. And so there are ways, to help those concerning situations.
Absolutely. And when in doubt, even if you feel like you can't report it, still report it.
Still report it.
Still report it. And just know that we will do our due diligence to get it to those relevant offices if it doesn't fit within the context of Title IX. So if you see something, say something. Even if you don't have all the relevant information to make a fully detailed report, if you just seen very briefly, I saw an altercation. I'm not sure exactly what it was about, but I'm reporting. And
yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you don't even have to witness it. They can just be telling you the story.
Absolutely.
And so, listening ears on, I know I'm always kind of perked, but that's our job. We are kind of always, ready to take action. But I think, just it can feel really uncomfortable and it can be really, really scary, but you're never going to be punished for making the report.
Right, right. And we have policies in place that protect our reporters if they're witnessing, a policy violation. So, no, you're never going to get in trouble for reporting behaviors that are happening on or off campus.
Yeah. And if you're ever unsure, ask the question.
Yes.
Right? Like we maybe not enjoy talking about it, but we're comfortable in guiding you guys through that process and what you can encounter. And just answering, I know a couple months ago we had a student come to us kind of in a casual setting and was like, hey, I have a family member experiencing this, a couple states away. What can I do? And we, kind of gave them their options, walked them through, kind of just sat there and actively listened to what they were dealing with, because that stress isn't just on the victim.
Absolutely.
It's on everybody else involved as well, and it can take a toll. And it's fantastic that we do have proactive students who are curious about what they can do to help and advocate for.
Yes. We do have amazing students who are actively engaged and ready to, utilize the resources on campus and, speak up about instances that they're seeing happens that fall within either Title IX or student conduct. So that's one thing that I'm very proud of our HSC students about is that they are wonderful when it comes to just doing the right thing.
Yeah, holding integrity.
Yes.
I'm sure that's one of our values. Yeah, having integrity. But yeah, we'll end on a high note, a little bit of a compliment for the HSC student body.
Yes.
Is there anything else that you think is pertinent that they know about, or any other comments you want to make?
Yes, absolutely. I just want to give our office information for those of you all that's listening. So
I will also I'll have it linked down below too, so you don't have to memorize anything that we've talked about at all.
So our office is located in the Student Service Building. We are downstairs next to the cashier's office. So if you just walk down that hallway all the way down, we are the last office in the interview rooms there. So if you ever have a question or you just want to stop by and, know about Title IX, if you have different concerns, please stop by our office, ask us any questions that you have. You can also email us at title9@unthsc.edu, any of your questions or concerns. We check those mailboxes multiple times a day, so definitely feel free to utilize that as well. And you can find our contact information on the website as far as numbers are concerned. But yeah, I just want last tidbit. Please, if you have any questions, any concerns, don't hesitate to contact us.
Yeah, there's never too small of a question or a concern.
Yes. No question is a dumb question. No concern is a concern that we're not going to look into. We evaluate everything that comes in. So,
And all the policies, all of the regulations, those are all located online too. Completely transparent office. Yes. We want y'all to know what you're getting into.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. Well, thank you for your time.
Thank you. I appreciate it. And you all have a great rest of your day.